Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful, I greet you all in our Islamic way. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace, mercy and blessings be with you all. Reason is one of the greatest gifts of Allah to man. And in appreciation of that great gift, one has to use it to the best of his ability or her ability. And one of the main reasons of creation is to worship the Creator in the way He has prescribed, submit to Him in obedience, worship Him by being constructive vicegerents on earth and establishing the divine justice on the surface of that planet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of this universe and everything that's in it, has created everything from the elementary particles of matter to the various sources of energy to man, has created all this in pairs so that he and he alone can stay exalted in his uniqueness above his creation, without parallels, partners or similitudes, without rivals, wives or children. Because these are human qualities and the Creator is highly exalted above all the qualities of his own creation. One of the basics of this life is man has been created in pairs. Man has been created in pairs, men and women, males and females. And these two partners of life have got special roles to play. And we cannot mix these roles, give men the role of women, or give women the role of men. Otherwise, we will be disrupting the plan of the divine entity, disobeying our Creator, confusing our life, lowering man below the exalted level Allah has honored him to. Allah tells us in the Holy Quran, وَلَقَدْ كَرَّمْنَا بَنِي آدَمَ. We have honored the children of Adam. And this honor is mainly entailed in being obedient to your Creator. You cannot live according to your own whims. You cannot live according to your own desires and aspirations, because some of these desires can be very filthy and very earthly. You have to live in the way your Creator has prescribed for you. I begin with this introduction because it shocked me to the deepest part of my heart to read in the latest issue of this American magazine, Time, a title that humiliates humanity and degrades man. On the front page, it reads, "The battle over gay marriage." America, as many other European countries, is trying to legislate homosexuality, which is deviation from the divine pattern Allah has created man for, disobedience to the Creator, and indulging man in a very low level, below the levels of the lowest of animals. Because even animals cannot lower themselves to that humiliation and that filthy status which America is trying to legislate. And inside the magazine, it reads, "The battle over gay marriage. It's official. Gays can marry in Massachusetts come May. A Time report on how it happened, what it means, and how it may play out in the race for the White House." They are racing for the top official level in America on an issue that degrades man, a highly immoral, filthy, dirty issue. They are racing to reach the White House on the basis of giving man what he can slaughter himself and destroy his society with. Because men cannot bear children and women cannot play the role of men. Every partner has been created for a particular role to play. And that's why in Islam, we cannot disobey the divine guidance. We read in the Quran a whole chapter called An-Nisa, women. And we read at the beginning of that chapter a verse that completely defies this playing around with the dignity of man. The Quran reads at the beginning of Surah An-Nisa, women, يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. O mankind, fear your guardian Lord who created you from a single person, created out of it his mate, and from them twain scattered like seeds, countless men and women. Fear Allah, through whom you demand your mutual rights, and be heedful of the wombs that bore you, for Allah ever watches over you. Not only this, but I recall when I was in the States many years ago, they were justifying that homosexual couples can adopt children. And imagine an innocent child being brought up in a filthy society like this. He is living amidst two men, calling one with the father's call and the other with the mother's call, a complete deviation to the child's nature. Or living with two women, calling one with the father's name and calling the other with the mother's name, a complete destruction for the psychology of an innocent child. And yet they find in America, the leader of the world today, supporters for this deviation, which can be absolutely destructive and can change that society, which is technically advanced and scientifically developed and carries the mightiest machine of armament in the world, can change the society to a completely rotten society that defies the divine rules and deviates with man to the lowest levels one can ever think of. Because of this, we have been reviewing some cosmic verses in the Holy Quran to prove their scientific purity and their scientific correctness, and prove to ourselves and to others if the Holy Quran is so precise and so correct in areas of the cosmos, in cosmic verses, it has to be equally correct in the divine instructions in controls of our behavior and in defining the unseen world which we are facing once we leave this world. The verse we are dealing with today comes in Surah Al-Isra, the 17th chapter in the Holy Quran, and it reads, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ آيَتَيْنِ فَمَحَوْنَا آيَةَ اللَّيْلِ وَجَعَلْنَا آيَةَ النَّهَارِ مُبْصِرَةً لِتَبْتَغُوا فَضْلًا مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ وَلِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ فَصَّلْنَاهُ تَفْصِيلًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, we have made both the night and day as two of our great signs. وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ آيَتَيْنِ فَمَحَوْنَا آيَةَ اللَّيْلِ. We have completely obliterated the sign of the night. وَجَعَلْنَا آيَةَ النَّهَارِ مُبْصِرَةً, and we have made the sign of the day so obvious. لِتَبْتَغُوا فَضْلًا مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ, so that you can seek the bounties from your Creator, your Lord. لِتَبْتَغُوا فَضْلًا مِنْ رَبِّكُمْ وَلِتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ, so that you can know how to count time, years after year, or month after month, or day after day. تعلموا عدد السنين والحساب وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا. And everything we have elaborated to its maximum detail. This verse is unique because it carries many scientific notions that were not known at the time of revelation of the Holy Quran or for many centuries afterwards. And before I indulge in explaining its scientific connotation, I would like to ask our friends here, these young ladies and gentlemen, to tell us their reflections about what they can get from reading this verse. As Muslims, what can they get reading a verse like this? And I'll begin with Tariq.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think that this verse reminds us and shows us one of the great grants that God, Allah, has granted to us. And this is specified in the words وَلَتَعْلَمُوا عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ وَالْحِسَابِ.
No.
For us, for mankind, it would have been really hard and impossible to tell the time that has passed since any certain event and until a different moment if it wasn't for two different times of the day where you can tell a difference between their nature and you can see the difference happening around you. So I think, subhanAllah, He was able to grant us such a gift where we can tell the difference between the day and the night, and thus be able to tell the years and the number of years that has passed since a certain event.
Barakallah fiqh. And Nurhan?
Yeah, no, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think that the ayah says that there are two signs that Allah gave us that I think there are signs in the way that they show or they prove the presence of the great Creator, Allah, and they tell us when is the time, or they give us the sign that it's time for us to go for work, to find our food, and do the things that Allah had created us for, and that night came so that we can rest and sleep, and at the same time finish all what we need to do for Allah, towards Allah.
Barakallah fiqh. And Amr?
What impressed me most is the last part. كل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا. Everything we have elaborated in complete details. I think I feel that it assures us that God is assuring mankind and all scientists and students of science that the explanation of the secrets of His creation is all present and available. And it needs people who do some effort to reveal all these secrets. I think that this part will never lose its interest as time goes on, as the whole Quran. And I think it's very challenging to mankind that they do some work to reveal the secrets of God's creation.
Barakallah fiqh. Actually, this verse carries a great deal of scientific information that came to our notice only through the 20th century. At the beginning of the 20th century, a natural phenomenon was discovered in the southern pole. And this phenomenon was described as the midnight dawn, aurora borealis, aurora antarctica. At the two poles of the earth, we see light at midnight that is as clear as the true dawn. And scientists could not explain this phenomenon until space travel started. In the 60s of the 20th century, they started realizing the fact that our Earth has been protected by a pair of envelopes, crescentic envelopes, that thicken at the equator and thin enormously at the two poles. These belts were described as radiation belts, or they were named after their discoverer, an American from Dutch origin called Van Allen, called them Van Allen's belts, or the radiation belts. And these belts actually repel cosmic rays that travel to us from the sun and from other stars. And these cosmic rays bombard the atmosphere of the Earth in billions of particles every second. And of course, they are electrically charged particles, so they ignite the atmosphere of the Earth. And this ignition can show at the two poles. This light can show at the two poles due to the thinness of these belts at the two poles. They are very thin at the two poles, but they are very thick at the equator. And they thicken towards the equator. And that's why we don't see it. In the equatorial region and equatorial countries, we don't see that phenomenon. We only see it when we go to the two poles. So it came to my mind that the verse means that these protective layers, these radiation belts, were not there at the beginning of the creation of the Earth. So at that time, the daytime was lit by the sun rays, and the night time was lit by the bombardment of these cosmic rays or cosmic particles. So with this, there was no night and day. Both events were lit and highly lit, and that's why if this was the case, one could never reckon time. You cannot reckon time if the night is lit and the day is lit, and you cannot establish any rights or dues. You cannot even pray properly. You cannot pay your dues correctly, and history would be completely lost. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing his bounties upon us by obliterating the sign of the night, so that we will have this alternation of day and night. And with this alternation, you can define the day, you can define the time properly, can define the week, the month, the year, and you can define your time properly, and you can establish your prayers correctly or your acts of worshiping correctly. You can pay your dues correctly. This fact was not known at all until I read this verse. And from the verse, I started to reflect on the possibility that these protective bells were not there at the early days of the creation of the earth. And I found that actually these bells are increasing with time. The size of, because they are actually formed by the cosmic particles themselves. The more you bombard them, the more you increase their thickness. So if you go back with time, these radiation belts were not there. And if they were not there, this means that the night was lit by the bombardment of these cosmic particles, and the day was lit by the sun rays. And if this was the case, anybody living on the surface of that planet could not follow time at all. You will never know where you are. And that's why Allah is showing his bounties on us by a miracle, actually, because nobody at the time of revelation of the Holy Quran or for many centuries afterwards knew anything at all about these facts. These radiation belts were only discovered after space travels in the middle 60s of the 20th century. And who would have thought about this? Right in the heart of the Arabian desert, at a time when there was no scientific discoveries, no scientific endeavors whatsoever. Nobody would question Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam about something like this at all. Allah is revealing in his book a scientific fact that came to notice only towards the end of the 20th century. And he made it so clear in this surah, Surah Al-Iqraa, the night journey of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so that people will read it today and realize that the Holy Quran cannot be the work of man. It is the word of the Creator in its divine purity and in its divine language. The word of the Creator in its purity. It has not been infiltrated by any human ideas. It has not been injected or adulterated by human ideas, which are actually imperfect and incomplete. And to state this, وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ وَالنَّهَارَ آيَتَيْنِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is referring this to himself. We have made both the night and day as two of our signs. فَمَحَوْنَا آيَةَ اللَّيْلِ, we have obliterated the sign of the night. وَجَعَلْنَا آيَةَ النَّهَارِ مُبْصِرَةً, and we have made the sign of the day so obvious. تعلموا عدد السنين والحساب لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم, so that you can seek bounties from your Lord. As Nurhan has mentioned quite correctly, we use the day for struggling for our existence, earn our bread, earn our living, and we use the day for rest, for contemplation, for prayer, for getting ready for the following day. So لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم, and this fadl, this bounty of Allah, can be either earning your daily bread during the day, or standing up and worshipping at night and earning the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لتبتغوا فضلا من ربكم ولتعلموا عدد السنين والحساب, so that with this alternation of day and night, you can reckon time quite properly, and you can fulfill your duties and your obligations, and whether towards men or towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you can record your history properly. تعلموا عدد السنين والحساب وكل شيء فصلناه تفصيلا, and everything we have elaborated to its fullest length. After this explanation, I would like to hear some reflections from Niveen.
Okay, actually what I know right now is when God puts things into pairs, it means that there is a part that could not do the role of the other part.
Yes.
So by putting the night and the day into pairs, there are things we can do in the night that we cannot do in the day, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
So by Him granting us this differentiation between the day and night, He helped us a lot in knowing what time is it right now, how to go, when to go out and earn, and when do we have to stay and take a rest maybe, or start praying for God more and being more attached to God.
Barakallah fiqh. And we'll finish by Wael. Tell us what he can add to what I have said.
I'd just like to emphasize on the fact that that the Quran says that it fully explained everything, and this fully explained everything came here in one word only,
Yes.
obliterated.
Yes.
It's just one word that explained everything, explained the whole generation of science coming in the year 1965, I guess, as you mentioned.
Yes.
So how miraculous that could be. The other thing Nurhan was saying earlier, that something about the day and night fading in and fading out, like it's coming in gradually.
Yes.
This is a great bounty from God. I mean,
Yes.
imagine if like the day comes in all of a sudden, and you're just asleep, and you all of a sudden you find it daylight,
Yes.
or you find the daylight in front of you.
Yes.
It's just a great bounty that it comes in gradually, and the night comes in gradually as well.
Barakallah fiqh. And not only this, but even medical doctors have recently discovered that there are certain hormones in the body that only form at night, and there are certain hormones that only function during the day. So the regulation of the body of the human being is also regulated by the alternation of day and night, not just the rest and running for getting your daily bread. Even the physique of your body would really be better controlled if you get that alternation of day and night. And that's why in another place, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us, قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمُ اللَّيْلَ سَرْمَدًا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ مَنْ إِلَهٌ غَيْرُ اللَّهِ يَأْتِيكُمْ بِضِيَاءٍ أَفَلَا تَسْمَعُونَ. If Allah has made night all the way through, who else could get you the daylight other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمُ النَّهَارَ سَرْمَدًا إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. If Allah would make your whole life daylight without night. من إله غير الله يأتيكم بليل تسكنون فيه أفلا تبصرون ومن رحمته جعل لكم الليل والنهار لتسكنوا فيه ولتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون. Out of the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has made this alternation of day and night so that we would have time to work and time to rest. And with this, the system of living on the earth can be better controlled, and life would be more enjoyable and more beneficial actually to man and his environment. And with this we conclude, hoping that we have pointed out to these two facts the beauty of the verse and its scientific content, and our negation to this human deviation which calls for homosexuality, which is anti-religion, anti-moral, and anti-human interest, and it can actually be a tool to destroy the life of humans on the surface of that planet. And for another episode, we leave you with the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His mercy, and with our Islamic greeting, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah's peace, mercy, and blessings be with you all.